Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Gentoo, your source for all things video game and tech related. I'm Cade Cox.
And I'm Keegan Cooper. Let's get right into this week's new releases. You'll be able to see these games and many more released throughout the month on your favorite platforms.
This week we have new DLC for everyone's favorite annoying bird simulator, a game for train enthusiasts everywhere, and a new dungeon crawler based around an internship.
Going Under releases for the PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch on September 24th. Going Under is a satirical dungeon crawler where you must explore cursed ruins of failed tech startups. As an unpaid intern in the dystopian city of Neo Cascadia, wield office junk as weaponry and make your way through offbeat procedural dungeons beneath the company campus.
On September 23rd, a free update will be pushed out to all Untitled Goose Game owners that finally bring two-player cooperative mode, allowing you and a friend to cause twice as much mayhem and do twice as much honking.
Unrailed releases for the PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch on September 22nd. Unrailed is a cooperative roguelike multiplayer game where you have to work together with your friends to build a railway track across endless procedurally generated worlds. Master random encounters with its inhabitants and upgrade your train to keep it from derailing.
These games and many more will be releasing throughout the month, so be sure to be on the lookout for them. Up next, check out XGen with Dalton.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new installment of XGen. This week I'm going to be talking about the 2014 Metroidvania action platformer Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition. If you're wondering what Metroidvania is, well, so was I. According to the internet, it is supposed to be a 2D video game style in which the gameplay is focused on considerably non-linear exploration, item retrieval, and proper usage of these items in order to fulfill the game's primary objective and achieve the desired outcome. Thanks, Urban Dictionary. With that out of the way, let's get into it. In this story, you play as Juan Aguacate, a humble agave farmer who on the Day of the Dead goes to meet an old friend, Lupita, who just so happens to be the president's daughter. Before he can meet up with her, she is kidnapped and Juan is killed by an evil skeleton named Calaca. Juan is sent to the land of the dead where he is given a mystical mask by a female luchadora that turns himself into a mighty luchador, which brings him back to life so he can stop Calaca from sacrificing his beloved Lupita. Basically, the moral of the story is, whenever you die, the first thing to do in the afterlife is find yourself a sick lucha mask. This is a game that I really did enjoy playing. It definitely has its fair share of difficult platforming, but most of the time the really hard bits of platforming aren't required at all, but doing them usually will get you another piece of heart container or more stamina so you can do more special moves without getting tired. As a wrestling fan, I find the combat in this game really fun and entertaining. The special moves only improve upon the suplexes, pile drivers, and drop kicks you can use in basic combat. Some of them include the Rooster Uppercut, the Frog Splash, and Pollo Power, which lets you turn yourself into a chicken. I've only ever played on normal mode, but I wouldn't say the combat is all that difficult. Also, throughout the game you come into contact with a number of Memorial for the Dead type save points where you can purchase new upgrades for all your powers as well as new costumes for Juan. You've probably seen me taking the chicken suit for a spin throughout this gameplay. One thing that I never got to experience on this game, but I wish I had, was the local co-op. I think the only thing more fun than suplexing skeletons back in the land of the dead would be having a tag team partner to do it with. I guess I'd probably need friends to do that though, huh? This game was definitely everything I expected it to be and more. I originally got it when it was the free game of the month for Xbox Live, and I was, of course, excited because anything wrestling related for me is a win. One thing that I really love about this game is just how fun it is. It doesn't take itself seriously at all. One of my favorite things is all the references to other media within the game. A lot of the posters that you can find within town and the training areas are all references to other things. Like this one that totally does not depict the Mario Brothers, or this one that totally does not have Mega Man vs. Skull Kid, and even a nod to one of my favorite arcade games, Castle Crashers. Something a lot of indie games do right is their soundtrack, and this game is no exception. The Spanish guitars blend beautifully with the synths and the drums to give you that Mexican atmosphere while beating up some escalitos. Hopefully this will push some of you out there to go out and give this bad boy a try. I mean, you all probably have it already anyway. That's gonna do it for me. I'll see you next week on XGen.
Hello, and welcome to Steam on a Budget. I'm Drew, and this week I'll be covering a classic, Terraria. Now, anyone who's been playing games for a while knows about this classic, but since there might be people out there who don't, let me enlighten you. Terraria is a 2D sandbox game that is similar to Minecraft. In the game, you will build, mine, and fight monsters while you try to defeat bosses and get better loot. The one feature that this game has that separates it from Minecraft is the implementation of bosses. The game has many unique and difficult bosses to defeat that drop high tier loot when they're defeated. There are bosses like the Wall of Flesh, the Eye of Cthulhu, and the Dungeon Guardian, just to name a few. There are some great features in this game that make it a real time sink. The progression is one of the largest ones. It's real easy to get lost in the crafting menus, looking through all the options to build and all the cool armor to get. There's a clear and steady progression through the different levels of armors and weapons that allows for tons of creativity. Another great feature of this game is the NPCs. In Terraria, you can recruit and find NPCs that can do things like sell you items, heal you, and give you advice. These NPCs give the world some life and make the game a lot more tolerable. While it is relatively simple to recruit NPCs, they do require you to build them a room for them to stay in. This makes your castle you inevitably make livelier and gives different rooms uses that would otherwise be useless. One last feature that makes the game a must-buy is the ability to take all of your free time. While playing, I would forget about everything and just be immersed in the ores I want and crafting the weapons that look the coolest. The reason it's able to do this is because of the depth of its systems and the freedom of choice. You rarely feel that you can't do something. With the good comes the bad, however, and this game is no exception. Terraria is home to some of the most complex systems around, and this can make the player frustrated. While playing, I often found myself browsing forums and Googling how to do certain tasks. This can make the learning process frustrating and could cause you to want to give up after a couple frustrating deaths. Another concern is the controls. The controls in Terraria are complicated. There are buttons all over the keyboard that do tons of different things, and there's no tutorial. The game just kinda throws you into the wild with no tips. Many times, I was staring at the keyboard trying to figure out what button makes the map bigger or how to drop items. One final grievance with this game I have is the overall lack of guidance. Don't get me wrong, I don't want my hand held to the whole game, but a little tutorial to help me get a world made and to explain the different game types would be appreciated. Also, the overall progression isn't hinted at either. While it's overall more fun to discover the system through trial and error, the game should at least point you in the right direction. While this game is on the older side, and has some complexity to it, I do think it is worth your hard-earned cash. Very little games are as addicting as Terraria. The whole process of looking for new ores, exploring new biomes, and building cool weapons is something no one should pass up, and is definitely in my top 10. This was Drew, and thanks for watching Steam on a Budget.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Tuck Talks. This is the second installment for this week. I had a video planned where I was going to put my fantasy team onto Madden 21 and play it out, but as I was playing through Madden 21, I realized how bad of a game this actually is. So for this week, we're gonna be reviewing Madden. Let's get to it. I think one of the first gripes that I have with this game is the fact that the loading screens seem to have gotten longer. The loading screens for everything on Madden 21 are just the longest thing possible. It's kind of annoying at some points too. Pretty much the only thing that's different with Madden 21 than Madden 20 is the yard. The yard brings a few things to this game that are important. You can customize your own character. You can see my guy. If I were an NFL level player, that is what I would want to look like. The yard's pretty fun, I guess. I've played around a few times with the yard. I feel like it could be a really fun game mode and a really refreshing game mode if you had someone to play with. Prototypes were introduced into this game, and honestly, they're kind of confusing. They have quarterback, wide receiver, running back, corners, and tight ends. So you have a lot to choose from. For example, I enjoy playing quarterback a lot, but they go through a draft sequence at the beginning of the game. You're supposed to pick your position. Now, if you're a quarterback, you'll play free safety. If you're center, you'll play middle linebacker. If you're wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and a slot, you'll play corner. And if you're a running back, you play outside linebacker. I mean, it seems like Madden had like a half-brained idea to like go with this, and it was a good idea, but I don't think wrecking ball for quarterback position would really be beneficial. But hey, I mean, go for it, EA. Whatever you want to do. I'm the one spending $60 on this game, so. The one thing that I really enjoy playing is Madden Ultimate Team. It starts you off with a base of core silver players, and pretty much everyone starts the exact same spot unless you bought the Ultimate Edition, which ran for about $100 this year, pretty much every year. I do have an unopened pack. We can open that right now, I guess. Derwin James versus the World Welcome Pack. Probably gonna be some crappy, Madden Ultimate Team tip, and then crown token. I've been playing Madden since Madden 07 with Sean Alexander on the cover. Give me something for that. I've been playing Madden for almost 2 decades now, and you're just gonna give me reskinned game with roster changes and superstar KO and Derwin James Twitch streams? This is a waste of money, man. I'm sick. I am sick. That's going to do it for the video this week. If you've played Madden, you know what it looks like. I mean, it's just a bad game. They did nothing for it. But I get to see Derwin James stream on Twitch at 7 every Tuesday. Thanks, EA. And thank you for coming out second week of Tuck Talks. See you guys next week. Peace.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Fall Guidance, the show that gives you the latest news, tips, and clips of all things Fall Guys. This week... Wait, hold on, something doesn't feel right. Oh, yeah.
This week we have some very big news in which the mid-season update was finally released. This update brings a slew of new changes to existing courses, as well as introducing a new, more secure anti-cheat system. To start us off, the update introduces the mechanic of dynamic variations in each round, making it so that each game never plays the same as the last. These variations can be things such as different kinds of falling objects, random changes in rotational platforms, and additions of new obstacles. One of these new objects has been dubbed Big Yeetus, a gigantic spinning hammer that can pop in at any round. Moving on, some smaller changes and fixes were put into place. These changes include improved stability for PS4 players in creating parties, improved round progression stability, bug fixes in levels, and increased resilience when encountering network errors. Lastly in news, the update also introduced its new anti-cheat software. Now with all that out of the way, let's move on to the next segment going over tips and tricks you can use to help secure that crown. Hello everyone and welcome to the second installment of Tips and Tricks in Fall Guidance. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the map Fall Mountain. This map can only be played during the final round, so knowing how to get to the end first is more important than ever. My first tip is to always jump off the ledge at the start of the course. The reason for this is simply because, when walking off this ledge, you run the risk of falling over. My second tip is that you should always try and predict the paths that the balls will fall to. During this round, balls will constantly be shot out at different locations, rolling down the mountain in attempts to knock you over. My last tip is to always try and run in the same direction as the spinning hammers. This obstacle requires pretty good timing in that, depending on the direction that you pass through, can determine whether or not you succeed, and sometimes even gain a small speed boost or get knocked backwards. I hope these tips helped you in winning this match. Keep practicing them and you will see improvement in your gameplay. Now with that being said, this concludes today's installment of Fall Guidance. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the final round.
Welcome to this week's Virtual in Reality. I'm your host, Derek Campbell. This week, I will be starting out in the virtual world playing MLB 19 The Show, testing out my skills as a pitcher with accuracy and placement. So let's get into some highlights to see how I do. When I was pitching in the virtual, I thought I had better control and accuracy just because I could aim and see where I was aiming in the game. But that doesn't mean though that I was perfection throughout the two games that I ended up playing. I gave up some hits, but I also had some key strikeouts during my games. Overall, I thought I looked good in the virtual. So catch me in reality up next.
My name's Derek, and I just got done in the virtual world as a pitcher, and I'm here in the reality going to be pitching and seeing what my placement skills like for my pitches, and we're going to have Zach pitch first and see what he looks like. So let's get to it. All right, Zach just got done pitching, so let's see how I do.
I went right after Zach, and as you can see in the reality, my control and accuracy is not as good as in the video game, but I did have some key placements before I had my batter come up to the plate. But even with the batter there, I felt like I did get the ball across and he got to hit it a little bit, but overall, I definitely feel like I am a better skills person in the virtual world.
Thank you for tuning in for Virtual and Reality. I'm your host, Derek Campbell. I'll see you guys next week.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Project Delta. Once again, I'm your host, Dalton Spees, and with me this week is
Cody Nance.
Cody. The Avengers game wasn't the only new release worth mentioning from September 4th, as Tony Hawk's remaster, Pro Skater 1 and 2, came out, and it rolled its way onto consoles the same day as Avengers.
It sure did.
So I want to know, first of all, Cody, how familiar are you with the Tony Hawk franchise?
I am very familiar. I wasn't allowed to play games like Grand Theft Auto and stuff as a kid, so when Underground came out and it was this big open world and you could run into people and knock them over, it was my Grand Theft Auto, you know?
You could just be your everyday normal vagrant.
Yeah, so pretty much every installment after Underground I have owned.
See, now that's dedication, Cody.
It is dedication.
I think if Tony Hawk were to give out a medal for dedicated Tony Hawk fans,
yeah,
you'd at least get bronze.
Oh, thanks.
Gold might be a stretch, but
yeah.
Bronze, that's within
gold.
reach.
Yeah.
So obviously, you clearly love these games. So how excited were you when you saw that these remasters were announced?
Oh, I was absolutely pumped. The series was dead before this announcement. The Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, it didn't do super great. In other words, it was a complete piece of trash that nobody ever wants to talk about.
But it had big head mode. So
it did have big head mode.
Imagine you're skating, but your head is big. I mean, that's like groundbreaking technology. I'm surprised
that
Activision let that happen, because that's top secret,
Yeah, for sure.
They're probably gonna put that in the next Call of Duty.
But yeah, I was really excited. I heard it was done by the same team that did the Crash Insane trilogy, and that was a quality remake. So I had complete faith that this was going to be done right, and not like the past Tony Hawk 1 and 2 remakes.
Well, I mean, like you said, those Crash Bandicoot remakes were really good and beloved by all the people that could actually beat them. I know a lot of people spent money on them, and the game was too hard, so they never finished it. But speaking of finishing it, how long did it take you to beat both of these games? And I know that since you have beat them, how replayable do you think that they are?
So it only took me about one just long night of grinding it out, mostly because it is a very faithful remake to 1 and 2, so I knew where a lot of the goals were already and stuff like that, just from being experienced with the series. So that was kind of a bummer. I'm sure that people who have never played a Tony Hawk before, they will have a lot more time to spend with it. As for replayability, there's a lot of online leaderboards for the best in 2 minutes. There's a speed run for collecting all the goals. And you can just get every skill point with all the characters, and just countless challenges of really obscure things. Like get this big a combo without using any grinds and make sure you manual on this specific thing. And then there's the secret skaters too.
And speaking of characters, obviously you're playing as Cody Nance, the skater.
For sure.
So what's his style like? What kind of a skater is he? What does he like to wear? You know, I know a lot of skaters they got their own outfits. What's going through skater Cody's mind?
So Skater Cody thinks he's really cool. So he's got this dope vest with a fist grabbing a cobra.
Oh yeah.
And then he's got his ripped jeans on. He's got his nice little haircut.
Now, did those jeans come pre-ripped, or did he rip them while he was out shredding the rails?
You know, I like to think that virtual me has some integrity, such as real life me does, and that he ripped them skating those rails.
And so, of course, you talked about how faithful these are to the originals, but I want to know, would this game appeal to the new fans of the Tony Hawk series?
I think so. Yeah. It doesn't feel clunky. The developers were very adamant about making this feel the way you remembered, not how it actually was. So like in 1 and 2, you didn't have things like reverts or manuals or spine transfers. So they added those in because they were in later games, and a lot of people played later games, and if you didn't have that in your tool set, it would kind of feel weird and like incomplete in a way. So that is a very good thing.
So of course we talked about your character, but I've heard that Spider-Man, who was a character in the originals as unlockable, he's not available in this game. So as a big Spider-Man fan, how disappointed were you by this?
I was pretty disappointed, but I honestly expected it with licensing being the way that it is these days. I couldn't imagine them getting like any of the Star Wars characters or any of the Marvel characters back for this. We do have a couple secret skaters in this, and that would be Jack Black and an alien. I have the alien unlocked, but working on Jack Black has been quite a chore, honestly.
Well, you know Jack Black, he's a legendary skateboarder. I think he's got a few X Games golds under his belt. But
for sure, Jablinski.
Yeah, what's Jablin's Jables. But so with that, this game is obviously very popular. It's probably the most popular Tony Hawk game of all time, as it was the first Tony Hawk game to reach 1 million copies sold. It sold the fastest. So.
Yeah.
Do you think this success will lead to the game being supported with extra content or even more additional remakes?
I certainly hope so. Like we established earlier, the people who did Crash and Crash Team Racing made this. And with Crash Team Racing, they had like a very long lifespan with support of a bunch of brand new tracks and tracks from other games being added at a frequent monthly basis. I'm hoping that happens with this game, but there's been no announcements for anything like that. But if they do more remakes, it'd be kind of hard to do, because if they did like 3 and 4, that would be weird, because 3 is a completely different gameplay style than 4 is, because 4 doesn't have the timers. And the only thing I could see them doing is like an Underground 1 and 2 if they did another package of remakes. Which
of course, you know, that's what I grew up on playing, was the Underground games. I didn't really play the Pro Skater games, but Underground had the story with your best friend steals your trick and gets your spot on the pro team, and
Eric Sparrow.
Underground 2, you get to hang out with all the boys and shoot tennis balls at each other's crotches, which is always a fun time.
It is.
And so if you had to choose one Tony Hawk game to get a remaster, which one would it be?
Underground 1 for sure. I spent so much time with that game just replaying the story, like trying to create the biggest lines I could through Jersey and New York and all that good stuff. And like you said, the story was legendary with Eric Sparrow stealing your footage of the helicopter jump. I've never felt more betrayed by a video game character.
So, of course, over the summer, we got an announcement from the guys at EA saying, Skate's coming back. They didn't really say much beyond that, but do you think that the success of this game will kind of start putting pressure on EA to bring that franchise back and give people what they want, which is Skate 4?
I'm thinking maybe. It does seem like skating games are kind of making a comeback with like Session just came out, and now this. So I think everybody is kind of looking at EA at this point and thinking, we next? So I think that Skate 4 is going to come sooner than later now that this has done so well.
And last question. We were talking about Skate and obviously playing Tony Hawk right now. If you had to choose between the arcadey, gameplay of Tony Hawk and the more realistic kind of feel on Skate, which one do you prefer?
I grew up on Tony Hawk, and I only just recently got into Skate because, Tony Hawk's been dead, and I guess Skate's been dead, but Tony Hawk's been dead longer. So, it took me a very long adoption period to get used to how Skate is. So I would say probably more arcade. I'm more arcade pretty much on anything, like racers. I want Need for Speed, not Project Cars.
You want Forza Horizon and not Forza Motorsport?
Yeah, whatever that
PlayStation. Means. That's going to do it all for us. That's going to do it all from us at Project Delta today. I'm Dalton Spees, and with me was
Cody Nance.
And we'll see you next week.